You were fine when you walked in. An hour later, you are standing near the door, holding a glass you stopped drinking from, waiting for a decent moment to leave. Nobody said anything wrong. You liked these people, you wanted to come. And somewhere between the second conversation and the third, something in you quietly closed. On the drive home, you tell yourself the sentence you have used before. Maybe I have just become less social. That sentence is wrong. What is happening is far more specific than a change of character. It happens in 3 places, and one of them you can change tonight from a chair. Let's put the first thing down. Being worn out by a crowded room is not a personality change. It is not shyness arriving late. And on its own, it is not a sign that anything is failing. Researchers went looking for the simple version of this story. 280 people, 18 to 85, measured on how tired listening makes them. It wasn't simple. 2 things were moving in opposite directions at once. People later in life reported more difficulty hearing, and that pushed listening fatigue up. But the same people reported steadier moods and less sensitivity to overload, which pulled it back down. So, there is no simple slope. What you feel at that party is not a slow general decline. It is narrower and much more exact. And exact things have handles on them. Here's what most people miss. A crowded room is not simply a loud room. A loud room is one problem. A crowded room quietly removes the 3 things your brain uses to pull one voice out of everything else. None of the 3 is about how much you like people. The first one is where the voice is coming from. Your 2 ears receive the same voice a fraction of a moment apart. From that tiny difference, your brain works out a direction, opens a window facing that way, and turns everything else down. It is why you can follow one person at a table where 4 conversations are running. That gain gets smaller, and here's the part worth sitting with. It gets smaller even when your hearing is fine. In one study, adults from 18 to 34 and adults from 60 to 80, all with hearing normal for their age, had to find one target voice among other talkers. Both groups benefited from the voices being spread apart. The older group benefited less. And when hearing was accounted for, hearing was not what explained the difference. Age was. Read that again, because it is good news in plain clothes. Your ear is not the problem. The map is. The sound arrives perfectly well. What has got harder is marking where it came from. The second thing your brain leans on is what is coming next. You do not hear every word anyone says to you. You never did. You hear the beginning of a sentence, and expectation finishes it. And that trick gets better with the years, not worse. In a room full of talking, listeners later in life get more out of a sentence that makes sense than younger listeners do, which is exactly why a crowded room feels the way it does. A crowd is the one place where expectation has nothing to work with. Half sentences. People you have never met. No turns, no order. A table that changes subject every 90 seconds. Your best tool is in your hand, and there is nothing to use it on. And then the third thing. That one is still completely intact. It is the reason this video has a good ending. The third thing is the face. Watching someone speak is not a courtesy. It is a second channel. The mouth delivers the consonants that noise eats first. Here's the study I would pin to a wall. Younger adults and adults from 60 to 90 listening to sentences and noise. When the sentence made sense and the speaker's face was visible, the older group scored the same as the younger group. Not close. The same. So of the 3, one is quietly weakened, one is strong and starving, and one is completely intact, waiting for you to sit somewhere it can be used. Now the room. Because the room is not innocent in this. When the noise around people rises, people raise their voices, not as a decision. It is involuntary. It has a name, the Lombard effect, and it has been measured in real restaurants. Below a certain level, people lift their voices gently. Above that level, they lift them about twice as fast, and every voice that goes up becomes background for everybody else. So the room feeds itself. It does not get harder because you got tired. You get tired because it got harder, and nobody in there decided to do it. The same work measured something else. In a room at ordinary restaurant volume, people with normal hearing were catching about half the words spoken to them. Half. That is not you. That is the room. And the surfaces matter more than anyone tells you. In smaller rooms, what decides whether you can follow a conversation is not the echo you notice. It is sound bouncing off the hard surface nearest you and how densely the room is packed. Bare walls, a bare floor, a full house. There is one more thing happening, and it does not involve your ears at all. Standing in a moving crowd is work for your balance. Everything in front of you is drifting a different way, and your body is quietly correcting for it the whole time. Walking through people is a negotiation. Two walkers reading each other and adjusting. None of that is failure. It is a second thing your body is doing underneath the conversation. Which is why the tiredness after an evening out is in your legs as well. So, 5 things. All 5 are free, and the first is the one I would keep if you kept only one. 1. Sit where you can see faces, not across a wide table. Close enough and angled so that when someone speaks to you, you are looking at their mouth without turning your whole body. That is the move that closed the gap in the study. 2. Put your back to something, a wall, a window, the end of a booth. When you are surrounded, voices arrive from every direction at once, and there is nothing to separate. When your back is covered, everything that matters arrives from in front of you, spread across a half circle. 3. Choose the room before you choose the evening. Soft things absorb sound. Curtains, carpet, cloth, a booth. Hard things throw it straight back at you. Sit near the soft side. And if a place has been beautiful and unbearable twice, it will be unbearable the third time. That was never a mood you were in. That is the room. 4. Go early. The obvious reason is that the room is quieter before the voices start climbing over each other. The better reason is that you learn the room while it is still learnable. Who sits where? What each voice sounds like. All of that is material for expectation, and expectation still works. 5. Take the quiet 5 minutes before you need them, not when you are finished. At the halfway point. A hallway, a coat room, the front step. Rest gives listening back some of what listening spends. The person who steps outside at 9 is very often the person still enjoying themselves at 11. Now the honest half. 3 things people try that do not do what they are hoping. Raising your voice does not work. It works for about 8 seconds, and then it becomes part of what everybody else is pushing through. If you have watched a room get louder all evening with nobody deciding to, you have watched the mechanism. Noise-canceling headphones do not solve this either, and it is worth knowing why. They are built for steady, low sound. An engine, a fan. A room full of voices is neither, and I want to be straight about the edge of what is known. I could not find a study testing them against a room of chatter. What they remove is not the part voices live in. Pushing through does not appear to build anything either. I've found no evidence that anyone becomes more tolerant of crowded rooms by going to more of them. What has been measured runs the other way. Which brings us to the part almost nobody says out loud. Your circle is probably smaller than it was. That is not a decline. It has been tracked across whole adult lifetimes, and the shrinking happens almost entirely at the edges. The acquaintances, the almost friends. The close ones stay. And that narrowing goes with a better emotional life, not a worse one. Fewer people who irritate you, more people who don't. Most people later in life are not wishing for a bigger circle. That is a preference, and a good one, but it is not completely free, and you deserve the whole picture. 61 people, average age 71, were followed for 5 years. The ones whose outer circle was smaller at the start did a little worse on a memory task 5 years later, even after accounting for how they scored at the start. New rooms and new faces appear to do something for a mind that familiar ones cannot. So the closing thought is not go out more. It is keep one door open in a room where you can win. A few things are worth 20 minutes with somebody who can measure them. Not because they are alarming, because they are measurable, and measurable is the good kind of problem. If the difficulty is moved out of crowds and into quiet, one person, one room, and you are still asking them to say it again. If it is clearly worse in one ear, or there is ringing. If crowded places bring dizziness or unsteadiness with them. If any of this arrived quickly over 6 months or so, rather than slowly over years. Or if the avoiding has spread, past parties into shops, into family tables, into answering the telephone. None of those mean something is wrong. They mean something is measurable. And a measurement is a far better thing to carry around than a suspicion. So, tonight, one thing. Sit where you can see the face of the person talking to you. Not because you are failing, because that chair hands you back 2 of the 3 things the room took. You were never the problem in that room. You were sitting in the wrong seat.